Rugby Championship opening game, folks. The Wallabies heading to Joburg to take on the Springboks. Both coaches have named their sides, but they've both been a little bit cagey about how the lineups could still change depending on how things play out between here and kickoff time. But we'll go through the squads which have been named, some recent history between the sides, some stats which might be relevant, the predictions, and you guys can let us know your thoughts on how this week's opening game is gonna go. Wallabies have not tasted success over in South Africa, over the Boks, for quite some time. 2011 was the last time over in Durban. But there's one guy who was playing in that game who's going to be playing in this game, and that is James O'Connor. So he has tasted success over the Boks in South Africa, and he's going to be leading the Wallabies for this one. But we'll get to the Boks squad first. They've made a number of changes to the side which beat Georgia a few weeks ago. And their number 8 injury, is it a crisis? Just the amount of guys unavailable at number 8 sees Sia Khaleesi at number 8, which is something of an interesting call because it's not traditionally his position. Oxenche, Malcolm Marx, and Vilko Low, that is the starting front row. That is pure scrummaging power, I would say, and it is much changed from the side that ran out against the Georgians. They'll be looking to turn the screws on. The Wallabies at scrum time. The Wallabies had kind of a mixed effort against the Lions. I think they did better at scrum time than many expected. The first and third tests in particular, they did all right in that area. The Bok front row, you can probably expect to play 40-odd minutes before they get the change. So it's going to be certainly always an interesting test when you go to South Africa, especially at altitude, how your front row holds up. Ox, Malcolm, and Wilco, that's some power there for sure. Locks of Evan Etzebeth and Lut Diacha, that is a locking duo which has seen a lot of game time together, but not so much in recent years, with Lut being injured for as long as he has been. But they are obviously a very good mix, with Eben's big physical presence and Lut's just kind of pure skill set in the air. I think they complement each other pretty well. It's why they've played together for as long as they have. And then the back row, Russie kind of did mention, is kind of partly there to combat the threat that the Wallabies guys have at the breakdown. Marco van Staden, great tackler, great at the breakdown. Peter Steph du Toit, double World Player of the Year, one of the hardest tackling guys in the game, certainly going to be getting up in the face of the Wallabies defenders when they've got the ball. And then Sia, massive cleanouts, massive at the breakdown, massive tackle machine as well. You combine that with like Malcolm Marx, who's a proper turnover merchant. Joe Schmidt talked about, Oxenche being so low to the ground, he's kind of a hard man to move and whatnot. So yeah, there's a lot of physical presence at the Bok breakdown. It is just going to be interesting to see how they play number 8. Will they switch guys around like on defensive scrums, offensive scrums, the Boks, and just how well, if it's Sia, how he can control the ball with his feet at the back of that scrum, because it's probably not a skill set that he's practiced a heck of a lot, but he would have in recent weeks, I am sure. If the scrum's going forward, should be kind of, shouldn't be too hard for him. I guess it's harder when you're trying to scramble out the back going backwards. Backs-wise, Grant Williams and Mani Lilbach are certainly an attack-minded 9-10 combo, and like Joe Schmidt also mentioned in his press conference as well, that like the Boks have got different ways to beat you. It's not just they can kind of out-muscle you, but they can out-skill you, out-speed you. I mean, Grant Williams is pure speed. And Mani Lilbach has one of the sweetest passes, and also Joe mentioned his kind of kicking game from hand as well. For as much stick as he gets for his, sometimes lack of accuracy with the boot in terms of his goal kicking for poles, the guy can unlock a defense like nobody else when he is on fire. So for me, that's a pretty exciting 9-10 combo. And Russie did mention that Mani has been kicking seemingly a bit better with the Rhino balls than the old Gilberts. So we'll see if that holds true this week. Andre Esterhazen and Jesse Creel, they've been having a lot of carries through the midfield, the Boks in 2025 against the Barbars and the Italians and the Georgians, whether it was Creel or De Allende or Esterhazen. There's a lot of carries to come through that midfield, so you can bet a lot of them will come through Andre. And then the outside backs, Kurt Learens, Edville van der Merwe, Apelele Fassi, very, very, again, attacking-minded back three. And you just got to look at the stats of every game. The Bok wingers and fullbacks are just getting clean breaks. When they do spread the ball wide, these guys are finding themselves in acres of space. which just makes them a hard team to defend against when they're getting the big midfield carries, then able to shift it wide. Bench-wise, Mbonambi, Vessels, and Ntabakanye. Again, that's maybe not quite as experienced in terms of the props as the starting guys, but certainly some big physical units there. Hopefully they get 35 minutes or so. Mostert is there, another experienced campaigner. Quacker Smith, and it's 3 backs for now with Corbus, Reinach, Kane Moody, and Damien Willemse. Although Rassi did say if the Wallabies went 6-2, he might pull the trigger on putting Arceus Neyman into the lineup. So we'll see if he does that, because the Wallabies have indeed gone with a 6-2. There's no real kind of out-and-out straight 10 cover, but they do have Damien Willemse there, who covers pretty much the entire backline. They did mention that Damien De Allende has a bit of a niggle, so he's not quite ready yet. Likewise, Cheslin Colby should be ready for next week. Initially, he said that Damien can cover 10, and my first thought went to Damien De Allende. I was like, hell, imagine playing that guy at 10. He's not going to pass it. He's just going to carry straight up the guts. But obviously, he was talking about the other Damien Willemse. But yeah, I think if you're a Springboks fan, you'd be pretty happy with the lineup to see if they're able to kind of boss the Wallabies up front and then spread the ball wide to get those backs into action. For the Wallabies, I mean, remember these guys it's been talked about a lot, but they have been improving throughout that Lions tour. They were unlucky in that second test. They were good, especially in that third test. And they'll be hopefully bringing the game to the South Africans, because this game's on at 3 in the morning for me. I want it to be a competitive one. They've not really tinkered with the squad a lot, and James O'Connor's selection at 10 is certainly one I didn't see coming. I thought for sure they were going to go Ben Donaldson with James O'Connor to be the squad guy, to be the bench guy, but no, he is at number 10. Ben Donaldson is out injured. He has been kind of the backup 10, the fringe 10 for the Wallabies for a wee while, but they were training with O'Connor at 10 anyway, so O'Connor was always going to play 10. And like I said, he was on the right wing for that 2011 victory over the Boks in Durban. So he's the only guy in either squad who's kind of played in that scenario. So whether that means anything, I don't know. I just thought it was kind of a wee interesting fact. Slipper, Pollard, and Tupou, that is the front row. As I said, they performed pretty well against the Lions, especially in that third test. We'll see how long these guys can go at altitude, because it is tougher on the lungs. Billy Pollard loves a maul try. If you haven't seen him play in Super Rugby, that is a weapon in the arsenal of this Wallaby side. Nick Frost and Will Skelton, again, they complement each other pretty well as well, because, I mean, Skelton's such a big physical presence. Again, how many minutes can he play at altitude will be the question. They got the lightning break in that third test against the Lions, which was kind of helpful to get a wee breather, but Nick Frost's a hell of a line-out operator. He takes pretty much more line-out ball than every other Wallaby combined. It's basically him, and then they have other options where it's a no-jump play to Skelton or an over-the-top play to one of the Lucies or something like that. But yeah, Nick Frost, certainly their main line-out guy, so they complement each other well. Tom Hooper was man of the match in that third Lions test, big on the carry. They don't really use him at line-out time, but he is a tall guy, so they can opt for him at line-out time too. Fraser McCray, hard tackler there at 7, very big threat at the breakdown. Then Harry Wilson captains the side. Again, kind of a pure work rate guy. They do lack Valentini's punch, with him still being unavailable, in terms of that pure ball carrier who can just go over the advantage line, but certainly a hard-working Wallabies forward pack. Nick White and James O'Connor is the 19 combo, as I said, so a couple of the veterans. Joe Schmidt is relying on some of the experienced guys to get the job done. Nick White, a favourite of South African fans in terms of he's got a bit of a reputation ever since the old mustache slap, but there's no Faf de Klerk in this one, which is disappointing, because it would have been nice to see those guys reacquaint themselves. But Nick White's kicking from hand was certainly useful in that third test against the British and Irish Lions. How well James O'Connor goes at 10. His first test for the Wallabies, despite the fact that he was training with them throughout the entire Lions tour, came into the squad after the injury to Lolosio, but how well he slots in for his first test match in a long time at 10 will be maybe make or break for the Wallabies. The midfielder Ikitau and Suali'i is really useful. Ikitau also loves a big carry. He's been one of their main ball carriers in all 3 tests. Suali'i, he's got a heck of a skill set. He's still not the finished article, having only transitioned back from league to union in kind of recent times, but he is pure skill. And then Peach, Jorgensen, and Tom Wright. It's also an attacking-minded back 3. Jorgensen was getting clean breaks for fun. He's very quick, so certainly another guy to watch there. Reserves, Paenga, Bell and Nongor. Bell's been, busy around the park, wasn't quite as effective against the Lions as we kind of know he can be on the ball carry. Jerry Williams is another great line-out operator. Longy Gleeson, another work rate hard tackler. Champion de Krebney, played in that first test against the Lions. Again, top tackler for the Wallabies. So they got some real hard workers in the squad, and they're going to need to be tackling the house down, you would think. McDermott is the perfect bench sub-9, I reckon, for the Wallabies. Add some, sniping punch, and then Callaway is the kind of utility guy there. They don't have an out-and-out 10 cover, but Joe Schmidt did mention that Callaway or Nick White can cover 10 if needs be, but one would expect that James O'Connor plays the 80 if he can remain fit for it, so a little bit of extra pressure on him. They do have Tane Edmed in the squad, who's kind of their 5th choice 10 with all the injuries they've had, but he's only had 2 training sessions, so Joe wasn't keen to kind of chuck him in the deep end. So they were going to go 5-3 with Donaldson, but with Donaldson's injury, they've brought in the extra forward in Champion de Krebney. Stats-wise, the Boks, they've dominated possession, they've dominated territory in their games against the Barbars, the Italians, and the Georgians. Those are kind of numbers to be expected. They've been scoring, I think, at least 6 tries every game, so they have been on fire in attack. I think barring the Italy game, was it the second Italy game? The line-out's been operating at like 90% or so it's been pretty efficient. And their meters per carry, which is that golden number about how well you're getting forward, has been 3.8, with the gold standard being 4. Very, very efficient team on attack. That's the area the Wallabies struggled. Their number across their games against Fiji and the British and Irish Lions has been 2.7, which doesn't sound that far off 3.8. But if you're talking about every single carry, that's 1 less meter. Yeah, the Wallabies getting that go-forward ball has been a bit of an issue. The scrum, as I mentioned, has been, I think, better than expected. A lot of people thought the Lions would demolish the Wallabies scrum, but it didn't really happen. Second test was the one where they were put under the pump a wee bit more. But different test, obviously, against the South Africans. But, yeah, they've been pretty clean on the discipline, like low card count, low penalty count, so they will need to keep those numbers low. Against the Boks, the record against the Boks in recent times is not great. The last 5 games is 4 Springboks wins to the 1 Australian one, and there's some blowouts there. There's a 43-12 at Loftus. There's a 33-7 in Brisbane. There's a 30-12 in Perth. These are all the kind of most 3 recent results. There is one Wallabies win in Adelaide, which was 25-17 back in 2022. But as I mentioned, the Boks have really had the Wallabies number in recent times. The average score across the last 5 is 29-13. And yeah, that's kind of how it's predicted to go. The bookies have got the Wallabies losing this one by 17 points, which is pretty much, as I said, bang on almost with the kind of average across the last 5. And then the Rugby Forecast algorithm goes one step further and says it's the Boks by 22. It is on at Joburg, so we do have the altitude factor. 5:10 local kickoff in South Africa, which is like 3 in the morning for me, which is going to be like, what, 1 in the morning for you guys in Australia? Pretty brutal kickoff time. Ben O'Keefe is the ref. Fingers crossed he has a good game. For you guys in the US, it is on Flow Rugby, as is the rest of the Rugby Championship games, the NPC, Curry Cup and whatnot. So if you want to check out Flow Rugby and watch the games for yourself, check the link down in the description if you are in the States. World rankings-wise, the Wallabies are too far behind the Boks for the Boks to take any points out of this one. But the Boks would drop a full 2 points if there was to be a massive upset by the Wallabies. So world rankings-wise, it'd be a massive one. The All Blacks could jump to number 1 in the world if the Wallabies did them a favour. The Wallabies would certainly get their position a wee bit higher in terms of staying away from the chasing pack in the world rankings ahead of the next World Cup draw. But you guys let us know your thoughts. Number 1 in the world, South Africa. Number 6 in the world, Australia. It's been a long time since they've tasted victory over on South African soil. Can you see this one being the one where they get it done? Or are the Boks just going to be too good across the 80? You guys let us know your thoughts. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. We're talking more rugby. And I'll talk to you guys again soon. See you later.